Okay. It's so today, it's 2:22. So today is Purim Cotton, right? 5779, and in honor of Purim Cotton, we'll say a little bit of l'chaim. So we have chocolate liqueur here, and we have some Van Gogh. And help yourself, or tea, or whatever you want to say, l'chaim on. There you go.
What's the pasuk?
2:22.
2:22.
We are learning.
I know.
Yeah, we're learning Shmuel I and chapter 2, pasuk 22.
That's what I said to you. Okay.
All right.
I misunderstood you when you said 222. I said
yeah,
the page.
yeah, not
That's why
page,
I had to ask again.
not page 222.
Page
That's
18.
Yeah, page 18 actually. All right, and so l'chaim for Purim Cotton, right?
Purim Cotton.
Give me a little.
All right.
Chaim Tov
That's
Shalom.
right. L'chaim tovim l'shalom. And just a little something about Purim Katan. It's very interesting that the Shulchan Aruch ends with the halachot of Purim Cotton.
I didn't know there were halachot.
There were a couple of halachot. One halacha is not to say tachnun, and right, not to say tachnun today. And another halacha, the Ramo says that it's good to increase good Tuesday.
Good Purim Chatan.
Yeah, Purim Katan ready. There you go. There you go. Purim Katan. Exactly. Say l'chaim a little bit.
100%.
And so one of the halachot of Purim Katan is not to say tachnun. Another one is that we have to increase a little bit drinking and celebrating and partying.
Being with you is already a
All right, and the Ramo, which is the Ashkenazic version of the Shulchan Aruch, right? The Ramo is finishing his words on about Purim Katan and finishing the Shulchan Aruch. V'tov lev mishte tamid, and it's always good to celebrate. It's always good
It's
to
always
have.
good to have something to say.
It's very
And-
strange because
and-
very little
There's a
written
word
about
that's missing from that. It's always good to have
It's all-
something to say.
Right, it's always good to celebrate, and it's just one more comment. The Ramo starts the Shulchan Aruch, Shiviti Hashem lenegdi tamid, that we should always put God in front of us, in front of our heart, in front of our mind, tamid always. And he finishes it with V'tov lev mishte tamid, and always good to celebrate and have and party with a holy party. So l'chaim, we have the two tmidim. We have the tamid in the morning and the tamid in the evening, right? The routine in Bet HaMikdash is to have the two sacrifices. So he starts the Shulchan Aruch with tamid and ended with tamid. The tamid in the morning, the tamid in the evening. We should always celebrate. And there is a halachic question: should we celebrate on Purim Cotton only, or should we also celebrate on Shushan Purim Cotton too, which is tomorrow? Because it's tonight already. It's Shushan Purim Cotton. So because the Ramo ends, V'tov lev mishte tamid, that you always. So of course we'll celebrate. So l'chaim, we should have always reasons to celebrate, and we should always have a good heart, and happy in our heart, and love in our heart, and l'chaim.
Amen.
L'chaim.
All right. Now, with all that alcohol in us, let's try to stay focused. So we're learning Shmuel I, chapter 2, verse 22. And we're in the midst of something not as happy, unfortunately. We are talking about the kids of Eli Cohen. Eli Cohen was the leader of the Jewish people at the time. He was the high priest. He was the shofet. He was the most pious person. And he led the Jewish people from the Mishkan in Shiloh. And his two tachshitim, his two kids, were the Kohanim over there. seems to be that there were, obviously by virtue of being his sons, there were some sort of leaders, and they felt that they threw their weight around a little bit, and they were desecrating the whole Bet HaMikdash, the whole system, by demanding more pieces from the sacrifices. The sacrifices, some of it are consumed on the altar totally, but most of them were divided, and there was a piece that goes to the Kohanim, a piece that goes to the owner, and a piece that goes to God on the altar, and they were demanding more of their fair share, and they were demanding it earlier, and they were demanding to start eating it early, and getting it early, and they would go with a strong hand, and they would grab it, and they would threaten people if they're not going to do it. They acted, it was their home court, and they acted as if the whole system is meant over there to improve their
Were they
status.
bullying the people around, or were they relying on their ignorance, that they didn't know any better?
So the people around.
Interesting distinction. Why do you even make it?
So
Well, because did the people know and they still gave up because they were being bullied?
So-
They just
so
didn't know
yes.
any better.
people were bullied, and people didn't know, and people felt that they're coming with their sacrifice not just as a routine, like move the boxes from point A to point B.
In good faith.
They were coming not only in good faith, they were coming with a full heart to do tshuva, to give to God, to dedicate themselves. It's like coming to the Bet HaMikdash. It's similar to what some of us would feel on Kol Nidre night, on the Ila night. Like you feel something special in the air, and you have the people in charge, starting to grab and do things, and you would think, okay, they know what they're doing. They're running the show. So they would yield, but on the other hand, they would resent it, and as a result, they would stop coming. I'm not bringing my, if you would, somebody
So they knew they were being manipulated.
they eventually they knew that they're being manipulated, and they would stop come and say, we're not going to bring our sacrifices to this Mr. The two young kids. They were not young anymore by then, so that was the situation. That's where we left off last time. So now in 2:22. In chapter 2, pasuk 22, Ve'eli zaken me'od, and Eli was very, very old. Now, this is a comment that's not common at all in the Torah, in the Tanakh. Baba Yamim is old, but very old is the only person that the Torah is telling was very old. He was 98 years old when he passed away. So he was very old. Now, because he was very old, because his sons were acting the way they were acting, he aged. He aged faster because his sons really desecrated the whole, didn't listen to his education, didn't do good by him, didn't do the right thing. So when kids, God forbid, are not doing the right thing, we all know that the parents age from it. So that's one of the things that happened to him. And another thing that happened to him is because he was so old, people really didn't want to approach him and tell him, listen, buddy, take care of your children. It's very easy when you have a kid that's running in shul and, the father is 30 years old or whatever, you come to the father and say, come on, please. But when the father is 98, you don't exactly go and start telling him, your kids are this and that. So people were reluctant to approach him and to tell him the truth. So he was really hearing rumors. All the information that he heard was from rumors. And so what is it? "V'shama et kol asher ya'asun banav lekol Yisrael." So he heard rumors. He didn't see it himself firsthand. Obviously, when he was walking around in the courtyard of the Bet HaMikdash, his sons were not going around grabbing things and bullying people. So he just heard it secondhand. Now, he heard it. He heard it from people who sort of would speak their mind, not even to him. He would hear one person talking to another person, and he was, behind the curtain, and he sort of heard it secondhand. They didn't come to him and tattletale about his sons. He just heard it. So because he heard it, he was not, he didn't grab him, and he was a good father apparently, and he didn't really rebuke his sons all that much. We will see in a second. So, but he heard what was happening, and this is a very controversial and a very strong statement. "Ve'et asher yishkevun et hanashim hatzovot petach ohel moed." So he heard what his sons were doing, which we described before in details, that they were grabbing the extra flesh from the korban. But now we're saying, and they were sleeping with the women that were sleeping with the women that were at the entrance of Ohel Moed, of the Bet HaMikdash. It's really strange. So it's not simple to really say that they were actually committing adultery in Bet HaMikdash, because there are very strict rules, and they would just they would get punished. People would just kill them. If people come with their family and suddenly the priest is doing that, they're not going to take it lying down. And later on we see when the God sent a messenger to Eli to tell him that this is not good and that there will be consequences. When the messenger, which is Isha Elokim, came, he did not mention this problem. He mentioned the previous problem, which they were playing with with their peace, with the korbanot.
If anything, you think that playing with the korbanot is a greater avera.
It's the problem is that this is not mentioned again, and it seems like this is something that would really affect people's lives. Their marriage will be ruined. A woman that does that cannot go back to her husband. It's a problem. So what's really the story over there? So let's just step back for a second and see what type of korbanot women would bring to Bet HaMikdash. So the most common korban that a woman would bring to Bet HaMikdash would be a korban after giving birth. After giving birth, the woman would have to bring two korbanot, korban olah and korban chatat. Okay? And they would bring it to Bet HaMikdash, and only after those korbanot were brought to the altar and were they were actually executed, so to speak, then they would be permitted to go back to have a relationship with their husband. Now, let's talk for a second about those korbanot, because first of all, it's a little strange. So korban olah is a korban which totally consumed on the altar. What's the purpose of it? The purpose of it usually is to say thank you to God. You gave me a baby, I'm giving you something in return. Beautiful. And for that, they would have to bring either a lamb or a bird. Okay? Either one. And then they would bring korban chatat. Korban chatat is a sin offering. It's an offering that comes with, so what's the sin that a woman committed by having a child? Very, very odd. A lot of discussions about it. Just briefly, when the woman goes through labor, she has labor pain, and in many cases she starts regretting the whole deal, and she might say things or things that she might regret. And that's one of the explanations in the Gemara. In the actual Gemara, that's one of... So people... Was my cursor husband? Yeah, it's all. So the question also is, I mean, is this really so severe that it requires a sin offering? Come on, it sounds very. So there are a lot of explanations, but the one that grabbed me is simply when we go back to Bereshit, to the sin of the tree of knowledge. What was the punishment for eating from the forbidden fruit? Expulsion and be'etzef tel dibanim. You should give birth with sadness. It's going to be hard. The labor is going to be hard for the woman. The husband is going to work in the field hard to bring parnasah, and the woman is going to have trouble, hardship giving birth. So there is an inherent ongoing punishment for birth giving, a punishment that comes to sort of expunge, clean up the mess of the original sin, the first sin. So some say, the Rabbeinu Bechai say that this is the reason she would bring a sin offering that caused the sin that caused her to suffer and caused her to maybe, say things that she might regret or think things that she might. So it's not really if she didn't do it. Nowadays people go through labor and they don't exactly feel necessarily. They get they get epidural. They don't feel as much. They do feel, but not as much, I guess. But the point is that this is not really about her feeling, because different people feel different things. It's about the original sin. Anyway, so they would bring. Now, women were very careful with it. They just had a child, and they really wanted to do the right thing, and so they were. And they also heard in that generation, they heard about Hannah, how it worked for Hannah to come to Beit HaMikdash and to pray and all. So yes, let's go. So they would bring their offering. Now, yes.
Early on, we learned that Shmuel's mother couldn't bring Shmuel because he was still weaning.
He was weak also. He was weak. He couldn't stand he was not able to withstand the travel. Okay. He was a weak child.
The mother has to bring the baby.
He was a weak child. The mother does not need to bring the baby. He was a weak child. Okay, and in those days when you had you didn't have birth control, so a lot more people have children at the same time, and they would hire a meyanek, a nurse, a nursing lady. Yeah, so that she can leave the child behind and go. But the point is that they would bring those two korbanot, and there was just as an aside, it was a big problem with those korbanot. Why? Because most people would bring two pigeons. They didn't have money to bring a lamb and a pigeon, so they brought two pigeons. Okay, it's called kinim, nests of pigeons. Okay, now the problem is that each pigeon had to be dedicated to a specific korban. So somebody would go to the pigeon supermarket and get a pigeon and say, "Oh, this is the pigeon for Olah, and that one is a pigeon for Chatat." Very good. And put him in a box, put him in a ShopRite bag, and go out.
Go tell them apart.
And they go tell them apart, and they got mixed up.
You couldn't just ask them their names?
The most complicated set of Mishnayos is the Mishnayos called Kinim, nests, that is talking about the halachot of these two pigeons getting mixed up. And you would have an area where all of those ladies would come with their pigeons, and sometimes it's not only going to get mixed up my two korbanot, but my korban will get mixed up with yours, and yours with yours. So suddenly we have, a balagan of, a whole balagan pigeons flying around. Now you can't tell them apart. So now they would have to bring double and triple and quadruple in order. It's a mess. It's a mess. So they had a lot of cover. So that's number one. Another thing that we need to keep in mind is that the size, we learned the size of the altar in those days was 5 amot by 5 amot. That's 2.5 yards by 2.5 yards. Not big at all. It's the original size of the altar from the desert. Later on, in the first Bet HaMikdash, it was 30 times bigger. It was 28 amot by 28 amot. And in the second Bet HaMikdash, it was 32 by 32, or 30 by 30. It was much, much bigger, 30 times, 35 times bigger than what it was now. Now, when you have a lot of people coming in, the altar, you spill over. You put a couple of cows on there, you ran out of room. Now, it's so things got backed up. Now,
Nothing worse than a backed up cow.
Now, you would have those Kohanim who were not that happy to bring the pigeons all together, because how much meat do you have in a pigeon? If it's stuffed, you have something inside, but just the pigeon itself, nothing. It's very, very little meat. So they would favor someone who comes with an ox, with a cow, with a lamb, with with sheep, something with more meat, and they would put them in front of the line. And it's not like they had a big altar that they can pile everything on, and they didn't want to work all together as hard, it seems. So the women would just wait and wait and wait and wait. Okay.
Until the next day.
So what happened? So that's number one. Number two. So as they were waiting, they didn't go back to their husbands because they were waiting.
I mean, they could be waiting days.
So they're not days. They were wait overnight. Whatever. I don't. They were waiting. Okay. And
that gave them time.
And so what happened was they didn't go back to be with their husbands, so it was considered as if the Kohanim are sleeping with them, even though they didn't really sleep with them. They just kept them waiting around and were occupying their time. That's number one. Number two, there is another problem. The problem is that Kohanim in general has a chazakah. Kohanim are really not atzlanim. They're not lazy. You see? They have something to do.
Tell my wife.
They have something to do. They do it. You should take care of your registration. You didn't. So if they have something to do, they do it. Now, what happened here in this situation, they obviously didn't do it. Now, sometimes there are two ways of bringing this kind of nests. You can actually bring the pigeon, if you have, so that's one way. And people would bring it from afar, and that's how sometimes they would get mixed up on the way. And they can also just bring the money, and they would put it in a pushka. There were 13 pushkas, and there was one pushka, one of the 13 was a pushka for pigeons for olah, and another pushka for pigeons of chatat, and they would put it in the right pushkas. And the Kohanim would take the money several times a day. Will take the money from those pushkas, go buy the pigeons, and sacrifice them and do what they were supposed to do. Now here, because they were backed up, they didn't do it on time, so it was sit there. The zettel, the raffle ticket that says pigeon was sitting there, and nothing was done with it. The women accounted on the fact that Kohanim are not lazy. So they would go home and they would have a relationship with their husband that night because
before the
korban was given. So the Kohanim were causing the women to sin and do. So that's the bone so it's really the whole problem was with the korbanot. It's just that some korbanot was just ugly. These korbanot, if you delay and play around with these korbanot, there are more consequences to it. So that's the story with those korbanot. So
I remember learning that it's the intent of if you fulfill the intent of the mitzvah, it's as if you had fulfilled the mitzvah. So therefore, even if the Kohen had not taken from the Pushka and bought the Olah, the woman had fulfilled the mitzvah by
It's
virtue
not
of
that
intent.
way, no. It's not that way with the korbanot. At least it needs to happen. And if it didn't happen, they're not bemazed. They didn't do it, intentionally. But the deed was not done.
No, I'm just saying how could the women have
So you have.
How could they have had an avera if they had intentionally?
So, but
already made the mitzvah?
the pasuk here is not faulting them. They're faulting
Right.
the Kohanim who caused them to do that. They're not at fault
They're
here.
doing it for something that they
They're-
didn't do. So
they're-
therefore, I think you
so
have to imply that the Kohanim were really doing
the
it.
Kohanim got all the flack for doing that. So Eli was talking to them now just to compare. So Vayomer Lahem, okay. So Vayomer Lahem. So Eli was telling them, and listen how something so terrible how it's being addressed by Eli. למה תעשון כדברים האלה? Why would you do things like that? He didn't say those things because he didn't see them. He just heard them secondhand. Why would you do things like that? אשר אנוכי, that I hear that דבריכם הרעים מאת כל העם האלה. That I hear about the bad things that you do from all of the people. Now, just so we to contrast that with how he was rebuking Hannah. Eli was rebuking Hannah when he suspected that she is drunk, and he says, "Ad matai tishtakerin? Until when are you going to be to drink wine, to be drunk? Hasir et yinech malaich. Remove right away, remove right now the wine from yourself before you step foot here." I mean, what very strong word. And here and that was about her private prayer, okay? And here is about his sons who are really hurting the feelings of all Am Israel. Anybody who came suffered from it, and specifically the women. Now the point is also there are a couple of other situations where women need to bring these kinim. People need to bring these kinim, these nests. One of them is when a woman is a zava. When she's that she had a discharge, okay? So typically, people don't boast about situations like that. They come, they give, they leave. But if they all hang around in the front, in the line, and the line goes for for a couple of blocks, and they're all schmoozing over there. Oh, Mazel Tov, you had a baby? No, I had a discharge. It's very embarrassing. So men would be less embarrassed because a Metzorah also need to do it. Men, okay, well, they're less susceptible to this kind of embarrassment. But the women were a little more embarrassed due to the situation. So Mazel Tov had a discharge. So they were the sons of Eli were faulted for it. Okay, so then he continues, Al banai, don't, my sons. Now, don't. And it's really interpreted as not my sons. You're not my sons. If you're acting like that, you're not my sons. כי הלא טובה שמוע אשר אנוכי שומע מעבירים עם השם. That I hear too much that it's about you, and you are ma'avirim, that you are passing over. What's passing over? That's a very what's the language here? So the pshat here, you're passing over people who are in line. They were waiting with their pigeons, and you're passing them over. You take the guy with the ox, in the back from the back of the line, or you're delaying it. So passing, that's the mavirim. The other thing is that we learned in Pirkei Avot that there are 3 crowns. There is the crown of Torah, crown of Kehuna, right, of being a Kohen, and crown of Malchut and royalty. And then it says, Veketer Shem Tov ole al gabeim, and the crown of good name is above all 3 of them. Now, Eli was in a position that he had the 3 crowns. He was the most learned man, he was the high priest, and he was the judge, which is the king at the time the ruler of the Jewish people. He had all 3 crowns. But because of his good name didn't hold up. Because of his sons, he lost all of the other 3 crowns. Terrible, terrible situation. Terrible. So there is a statement that Chazal are saying, Ashrei mi shechoshdim uto ve'en bo, that blessed he who that somebody is suspecting of something and he doesn't have it, and he's not. But here the rumors had basis. The rumors may not have been as bad as they're sleeping with people, but they definitely caused a lot of damage. So they couldn't escape it. They couldn't escape it. Now another thing with regards to Eli, and one of the reasons he might have not seen it personally. Last time, this week, I heard somebody ask me if there is some term limits for the Kohanim. The Kohen, how long can a Kohen be serving God? And
is Kohen Gadol?
Any Kohen Gadol, Kohen Katan, Kohen Benoni, any Kohen are there term limits? There is no. It's a lifetime appointment. There is no term limit, except if they
marry a
if they can't service God properly. It says if a Kohen has shaky hands, God forbid they got Parkinson's or something. They get
is usually temporary.
Some of it temporary, some not. But if they're full, they're whole, but they can't serve. And many times from old age, people start trembling, some shaking, and they can't service God. No. So by saying that Eli was very old, some say that he was in this situation that he couldn't really service God, and so he wasn't around to see it firsthand. He wasn't around to see it firsthand.
Doesn't have to be shaken, it could be just dementia.
Dementia, yeah. If they don't, we're not talking about somebody who doesn't know what to do. Dementia is they don't know from what side the cow eats. That's a different story. They knew what to do. They just were trembling a little bit, because when they throw the blood on the altar, it has to be precise. Anyway. So, and then he continues.
Put it behind the wrong ear.
Continue to tell them, Im yecheta ish leish ufilelo Elokim. If a person is sinning against another person, then God is praying for them. That's one of the pshat. God is praying. God is really God is praying for them and can forgive them. There is another explanation is if 2 people are having a disagreement and one is convincing the other that they're really sorry and they're actually asking them to pray for them for something wrong that they did, like Avraham and Avimelech. Avimelech was his people were stealing Avraham's flood. They didn't let him graze, and he stole his wife Sarah. He was not acting like a nice man, and so God came to him and promised him he's going to destroy him. Right. So then he came to Avraham and begged for forgiveness, and then begged Avraham to pray to God for him so he will be okay. And Avraham agreed to do it. And God listened to Avraham, and Avimelech was not harmed as a result. So if 2 people have a disagreement, and then they make up, and one person is praying for the other, God is forgiving them. But what if the 2 people, the 2 sides, one side is God, who is gonna forgive that? Ve'im la'Hashem yechta ish, ve'im la'Hashem yechta ish, mi yitpalel lo. If somebody is sinning against God, who is so bad, right? Who is going to pray for them? V'lo yishmeu lekol aviem, And on top of it, they didn't listen to the father. The boys didn't listen to him, to Eli, to their father. So that's another sin. Ki chafetz Hashem la'amitam. And then suddenly God wants to kill them, which we'll see. It's a problematic thing. We'll see what that is all about. Now, just as an aside, in modern Hebrew, the word plilim means criminal. Plilim is criminal. Civil is ezrachi. Right? So mishpat plili is a criminal court. The word plili comes from the word lehitpalel. It comes from here, filelo. So if two people have a crime against each other, they can pray to God and God will forgive them. But if they have committed a crime against God, there's nobody to pray to. You can't. It's a problem. So this is how the word in modern Hebrew, yeah.
But Moshe prayed for the people who had committed a sin against him.
Correct. Moshe
And
other people, correct. They all prayed. So
why does he?
why exactly? So let me frame the question a little more stronger. It says because God wants to kill them. Hello? I mean, we all know that there is never the gates of tshuva, never of repentance, never closed, and God never wants to kill us. What's going on here? So this is really a question that one of the 12 questions that the people of Alexandria. There used to be the people of Alexandria were learned people. The Egyptians of Alexandria, where the library is.
Just look at their Genesa, right?
Yeah. So they were very learned people, and they asked 12 questions of Rabbi Yeshua ben Hanania. So this is one of the questions. You're saying that God is doesn't want to kill. So how come He says that He wants to kill? So there are a couple of answers. One of the answers is that. After the decree came down, there is nothing to do. If somebody sinned before the decree to say, okay, the punishment is death, God will take a person back. But once the death is, the Malach HaMavet was sent with the message ready to take the person's life, there's very little, if not, that can happen. So that's one of the explanations. Another explanation is that God doesn't want to do harm to people who sin if they repent. But those two fellows didn't repent. So God is standing there and saying, give me a reason to want to keep you alive. And they were not.
They didn't do tshuva.
They didn't do tshuva because they felt that it's coming to them, as we explained last time. Now, one of the...
They didn't do tshuva, but the point is that God was killing them, but God wanted to kill them because of their thievery, or was it because of the improper treatment of the women?
So
Because
the
if it
improper
was-
treatment of the women was the same as it was all one thing. It was all
No, they're
about the
attendant.
korbanot. Oh, you're saying the delaying. Yeah.
The attendant would steal
Yeah.
the choicest parts of the meat.
Right.
That was thievery.
Right.
And the attendant supposedly was directed by the sons.
Right.
But the depravity of the, quote, adultery
Mm-hmm.
and the desecration of the name of Eli,
Right.
those things were different. They're different than the other
Right.
event.
Right.
So maybe he wanted to kill him because of one and not the other.
So it's not one and it's not the other. It's 5 or 6 things that they did. And in the next psukim, if we get to them
Well,
today,
here's from the man
we
of
will
God.
we'll wait from the man of God.
The
He
man
will-
of God never talks about the depravity. He always talks about the thievery.
But he talks about the fact that they disgraced the place and disgraced the name of God. And that is part of that. If they disgrace the place of God and the name of God by acting the way they were
You robbed the
acting,
bank, you took both.
So-
You robbed a bank, you took both coins and bills. The point is, you robbed the bank. not whether or not you took whether or not you took coins or bills.
But it was the desecration of God.
The desecration of God was
It was
also
Chalal
The
Hashem.
desecration of
the
Kohanim,
thievery.
The Kohanim. It was a desecration of the Kohanim's role
Right.
that he wanted to kill them.
Right.
And for
Correct,
that,
correct. And
It was a
would not
compendium.
repent.
right,
Rather
and
than-
this thievery was also desecration of God. That's why
There was all
it's
desecration, but
right.
clearly, we spend a whole bunch of time talking about the thievery, and a whole bunch of time talking about the adultery.
Right. Now, one of the reasons that they didn't listen, the rabbis are saying, is because Eli didn't have his heart with his rebuke. And that's what he's faulted. And we'll see he's going to lose his position. His family is going to lose the position totally because his heart was not with it. So when you hear a rebuke from someone that his heart is not in it, your heart is not going to listen to it either. So they didn't, daddy said something, but he really didn't mean it. They felt it. So that's, now, to contrast their behavior with how they should be, we bring the next pasuk. And the next pasuk is talking about Ve'anar Shmuel, and the boy and the kid, the bocher Shmuel, Olech vegadel vatov. He is growing up in a very significant and good way. Gam im Hashem v'gam im anashim. He is good with God and he is good with people. He is tov l'shamayim v'tov l'briot, right? And there is a story. The rabbis are teaching us from it several things. That a person should be loved. A person should try to do good with people and should run after doing good with people. And the examples that they give is a person should keep coins in his pocket if someone needs change, not to give tzedakah necessarily. If somebody needs change, you have quarters? Yes, I have quarters. So people should go around with this kind of thing so they can offer their help so people would like them. Now, when I was in yeshiva in 770, there was this traffic cop who would give tickets all the time for the meters, expiring. So there was this guy who would it was no quarters, it was dimes. So he would keep pockets full of dimes, and he would walk, in front of the cop, in front of and in her eyes, put one. Now she can give a ticket, and goes to the next, and goes to the next. And it was it was a spectacle every day, that we experienced. So this is what he was doing, was trying to. Now, the rabbis are saying that Shmuel is weighted. What's so funny?
I'm just reminded of, we had a cop at Bethesda Hospital.
Oh.
He used to give us tickets.
The Shmuel is weighted against Moshe and Aharon. He is like Moshe and Aaron. So what does he mean? Moshe is good enough, Aaron is good enough. He is like Moshe and Aaron. So the point is that Moshe was the teacher. Moshe was the judge. Moshe knew the judgment. He knew and he would not play with the judgment. It is what it is, and tell it as it is. And Aaron would be a guy that was Rodef Shalom, Oev Shalom, Rodef Shalom. He would chase after, to compromise and to have peace, and he would increase the love between people. Now, what did Shmuel do? Shmuel did both. What he did, he was going around the country and teaching people how to avoid the conflicts to begin with. So he was doing the job of Moshe and Aaron all at the same time. Moshe would judge people who came in front of him. Aaron would go, chase to get the problem resolved. After if there is a disagreement between people. Shmuel made sure that the problem didn't start. He would go around the country, would teach people in such a way that if you listen to him, you wouldn't have a problem to begin with. Now, he also, Moshe was born circumcised, and Shmuel also was born circumcised, which is typically a sign of someone who is a pious person, special neshama, special person if they're not if they're born circumcised. Anyway, so that's the contrast, and I think as the rabbi is here, so we'll finish for now, and we'll see the visit of Isha Elokim, the man of God, which was Elkanah, which is Shmuel's father. He came to deliver a very harsh message to Eli. We'll talk about it next time.
Shkoch.